All right, so we did the body, and you can go ahead and preview it if you want. Just double click on it. You can see it made it purple, and it put all kind of our default settings. Next is to basically just make our adjustments to basically everything down here. Okay, so I'm just going to do more selectors and more CSS rules. And basically, these are the things that these are things that we already had. But now I'm applying them using our selectors, using the divs and like the IDs and things like that. Okay, so first I'm going to do my H1, space, boom. And this CSS rule will be font hyphen size, and I made it 48px. Good. In order to make this, so you might like it better like this. In order to make it a little bit more tidy, I'm actually going to put that there, so that way it doesn't take up quite as much space. I'm just going to put this here, okay? I used to like writing the other way, but I think after time, when you get more used to writing, you start caring about space more. So anyways, so that'll be H1. That only applies to my main title. And then I'm going to do one that's going to do H1, comma, H2, comma, H4. I don't do H3 because there are no H3s in my site currently. And when you put a comma, what that means is that it's going to apply to multiple things. So like it's going to apply to H1, H2, and H4. So instead of having to write a new one for every line, I can just put all the elements that this is going to apply to. Now, if you don't put the space in there, if you do it like this is actually correct too, but it won't do the same thing. It will instead, it will say, okay, inside H1, if there's an H2, and then inside of that H2, if there's an H4, you're going to apply to the H4. So it's more of a descendancy thing than is anything else. This, on the other hand, will apply to all three of these things specifically. Okay, so to these, I just want to make sure that the color is, this time I did RGB, and it was 78, 78, 78, 78, comma, space 78, comma, space 78. And that's alright like that, and then semicolon, okay? And then I'm just gonna move this up here, but it's not super. Be careful about these little braces. This is one of those things that a lot of you guys forget, like you miss it, or you forget to put the semicolons on the end of your lines, your CSS properties here. So let's do the next one. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna target the header. So I'm gonna go hashtag header. So what the hashtag does, this means that it is an ID. So IDs will always be the ID name and then the pound symbol. Or sorry, the pound symbol, then the ID name. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply things to that. So we're going to say text align, and I'm just going to go ahead and center it. And then we'll also do margin bottom, and we'll go ahead and do 50px. Okay, and let's go like this. Okay, so what that's gonna, so these obviously, this obviously the size H1, this changed the color of my titles. This one here, what it's going to do is it's going to take all of the text that's written in there and make it centered. And then the margin bottom 50, what it's going to do is that, you know how I was putting breaks in before? Now I'm just going to manually say as that at the bottom, make a space of 50 pixels before the next element. So basically after this header, there's going to be 50 pixels before the content section starts. Okay, so that's why I put that in there. Okay, let's do the next one. So we're going to do the footer. So hashtag footer. Okay, because the footer is also an ID. And we're going to do background color. This is going to be a little bit more involved just because I want to do some stuff. So it'll be RGB. And we will do 97, comma, space 95, comma, space 88, and then put a semicolon after. I don't really care what color you put in there. Do whatever makes you feel warm and fuzzy. The color, I'm just going to go ahead, thought I would color, and we're just going to go ahead and write white. I'm just going to have to be, the text will be white inside of it. Padding, which will put space between the element and the outside of it. We're going to go ahead and make 20 pixels. The border hyphen style. We're going to go ahead, and there's a bunch of options. If you want to choose any one of these, go ahead. I'm just going to choose solid because solid typically, honestly, looks the best. Most of them look kind of cheap and cheesy. Border width, which is going to determine the thickness of it, which I don't see it there. So hyphen width. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we're just going to make it 2 pixels thick. Again, if you want to make it a different thickness, you can change any of these numbers, just as long as they're generally present. And then we'll change, then we're just going to say the border color. So border color, and we'll do HSL, so hue, saturation, lightness is what that's for. And so it'll be 56 for the hue, 80% for the saturation, and then 90% for the lightness, and then semicolon. Ooh, okay, and that is good for that. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to target now my sections. Now notice that these are classes, so it's not going to be a pound symbol, where instead it's dot section. So classes start with a dot, okay? And so for section, we're going to do background color, background hyphen color, and I'm just going to go ahead and grab this one, Control C, Control V, just to make it a little bit easier. Oop, make sure I get rid of that thing. There was an extra one. I accidentally grabbed this, the extra brace there. Padding, we'll go ahead and we'll do 20px, okay? And then, let's see, margin bottom. I'm not doing margin everywhere because otherwise it would push the element like to the right and below and to the left, and it would move the whole element like off kilter. I just want to add it to the bottom so it moves the next element farther down from it. So instead of using the BR, the break that we used before, we're just going to do a margin bottom. And we're not going to do quite as stark as the other one. We'll just do 20 pixels. Okay. Next what I'm going to do is I want to target my links. So right now the links, if you were to open them, have that typical, it's like a purplish, bluish, I guess that'd be navy, with an underline, and it just doesn't look very good. So I just want to make it look a little bit better. So I'm just going to do A. And we're just going to go ahead and we are going to do color. And I am once again just going to use this color up here. So I'm just going to hit Control V because I still had this copied. Make sure I get rid of that extra brace I put in there. And let's see. Then we want to do font size. Font hyphen size. There we go. And we'll go ahead and make it 24px. And then text decoration. Text decoration, none. And what that's going to do is that there's text decoration underline, overline, strike through, but by putting none, it's going to remove the underline on the links. Now here's the thing, if you want to do that, that's fine, because obviously it looks terrible having the underlines. But if you do remove them, you have to have some other way of people knowing that it's a link. So you need to like color them different, change the size, things like that, okay? So I'm removing it, but I made the font bigger and I made it a different color than the rest of the text, okay? So I think that was everything I wanted to do in here. I know that was quite a bit of stuff. Obviously, I wrote a whole bunch in here, but you can just look to the bottom left there, and you'll see the code down there. So I'm just going to save this, hit Control S, and go to the next slide.